Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat, along with IrishBreakdown.com. I am Vince D'Addario. I am joined by Jesse Stiers today. It is Thursday, and for the next few weeks, that means a very tightened show because Notre Dame women's basketball takes their tip-off at 6 o'clock. So 55 minutes from right now is tip-off. And that means there's a pregame show at 5:45, which means we need to be out of here at 5:40. So it is going to be a very condensed show every Thursday for the next 3 weeks, Jesse. And it's going to be you and me because Sean's going to be doing said games for Notre Dame women's basketball. And they are a Sunday, Thursday pretty much for the next few months. And it's why you get us. So I hope you enjoy it. And Jesse, how was your day? It's Thursday. We are rapidly approaching Friday and the weekend. We've got 5 straight days of playoff football between college football, the NFL. This is one of the best weekends of the year, in my personal opinion. I don't know how you feel about that. I know it rivals probably the NCAA tournament for basketball. You've got that weekend. But football-wise, man, 5 straight days of playoff football.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack in what you just asked me. So first and foremost, I'm very happy tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow's payday for me, so that's always a very great day. Also, it's just been one of those, tough weeks, a lot of hours working. So I can't say that I would be lying if I said I didn't appreciate a condensed show today. It'll be nice to kind of, get on here, chat a little bit,
right?
Talk about the portal, talk about the playoffs, that sort of thing. I'll probably hit a nap after this, and then I'm meeting up with some friends for dinner. After that, we're gonna watch the Ole Miss and Miami game. So I'm in the same boat as you. This is one of the best weekends of the year, and for me, it tops the NCAA tournament just because I love football. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I love basketball, but I love football. And this is, if you're a football fan, this is it. This is the 4 best teams, in this season for college football. Then we're going to roll into the NFL, hopefully see some good games there. And selfishly too, Vince, I like the playoffs too on a sports gambling side of things, because now you're getting rid of all the extra crap. Those teams that you can't really, I feel like when you're in the playoffs, more of, what those teams are, what they're going to try to do. I just feel like there's a more solid footing in terms of the sports gambling world. So looking forward to that. I've been in the dog days of like betting on NBA. That's not really fun because it's like it's so inconsistent, guy could put up 20 shots and make 4 of them, but it's like I knew the volume was going to be there, but for some reason the guy only hit 4 shots. So really looking forward to this weekend. It's my father-in-law's birthday as well, so we'll kind of go down there and hang out, watch some football with him, get dinner, that sort of thing. So I can't complain. I'm just really looking forward to like 4:30 p.m. tomorrow.
Oh, when you're off of work?
Yeah, and then we all get to hang out. The 3 of us get to hang out for a Friday Fire session.
That is a very good point, and well played on the transition. So tomorrow and Fridays from here on out, at least in the offseason, the goal is for all 3 of us to be on Friday shows and to do a we in, we out Friday, I think is what we're going to be doing moving forward. So you all can look forward to that, as I know I will. And then, a lot of times followed by high school basketball and all those kinds of fun things. So Friday should be a lot of fun around here. And so we're going to attempt to have all 3 of us on every Friday show, depending on schedules and, and how things work out. But we got football on tonight. It is nice that we had the condensed show. We've got some rapid fire questions that we're going to hit on. If any breaking news, happens that we're aware of, we'll hit on that. That'll kind of be what Thursdays are here for the next few weeks, since it's a 2-segment show. And so, right now, obviously there's nothing to really report Notre Dame wise. A lot of guys on campus over the last couple of days. There's whispers about some portal news, things like that. Nothing imminent that we are aware of, although I should say there are whispers of imminent things in the portal. So once things become official, we will, of course, talk about them. Are you at all, because you and I haven't talked about this, Sean and I have talked about it. I'm sure you and Sean have talked about it. Are you at all nervous, upset? What's your like scale of 1 to 10 from a worry standpoint that, 19 guys have jumped in the portal from Notre Dame and they have not signed anybody up to this point? Are you freaking out? This is like day 6, I think, of the portal, and people are freaking out right now. Where are you at with all of this?
Vince, I ain't worried about nothing.
There it is.
I ain't worried about nothing. Like Notre Dame. So like, here's what you have to realize when you look at, and this is as of last night, so maybe this has changed a little bit. You know how many guys Ohio State has gotten out of the portal? You know how many Georgia has gotten out of the portal? Miami, BYU, like.
Since it's radio, I will say it out loud. 0, I believe, is the answer. Yeah.
And so it's like when you are recruiting at a high clip, and I know this has probably been talked about ad nauseum, you don't have to rebuild your team every year. IU and Cignetti, they're not, and forgive me for the comparison, but that's just the best comparison right now. Is IU. They're just they don't have the recruiting stability or the work that Marcus Freeman has been putting in the last 4 years. This is year 1.5 for like Curt Cignetti. It's like he himself is trying to like. If you asked him, I'm sure he would love to be a guy that recruits and doesn't have to go to the portal so much. And so, Notre Dame, I'm not worried because I've seen how Notre Dame has been recruiting and what that has turned into on-field success. And, I saw something earlier that was like, we can't rely on young defensive end and defensive tackles to come in right away and play. It's like, well, why not?
Yeah.
That's what good schools do. When you got good recruits, you get them on the field and you play them because you know why? Because they're good players. This is always a discussion, age-old discussion for me. Then it's like, it doesn't matter if you're a freshman, a sophomore, or a senior. Talent is talent, just because you're an upperclassman doesn't mean you should be on the field because you're an upperclassman. So it's really nothing to be concerned about. And I think the real reason people are concerned, Vince, is we just have unfortunate people in the media who love to rage bait people, who love to remind people every 6 seconds that another player has left to the portal and Notre Dame still hasn't signed anyone. Well, it's just, why don't we wait and see? Because there are so many players entering the portal still that you wouldn't have guessed are even entering the portal. Like Oregon has a running back who entered the portal who's going to play tomorrow. He's still going to play tomorrow, but he's technically in the portal at the same time. So it's just like a defensive lineman from Texas A&M entered the portal today. So like up front, I know that you want to kind of, knock down that first pillar and get one of those big names under your belt, but just the portal is open for 2 weeks, right? And so it's just like, why don't we just be calm here a little bit? I trust Marcus Freeman. What has Marcus Freeman shown you in the last 4 years that you shouldn't trust him and his roster building and his roster development? So it's just, and then the other side of it is, who has Notre Dame really lost as an impact player? Josh Burnham.
That's it.
A guy who was probably going to be fighting for, second string.
And he probably wasn't going to start. He was probably going to be a rotation guy at defensive end, assuming everybody is healthy and all of those things. And look, Josh Burnham's a loss. We're not trying to tell you that he's not. He's a good player. He's a very good player. Him leaving hurts to a degree. It does. I would like to keep Armel Mukum. Those are the two guys that are big for me as far as impact in the 26th season.
Right.
The rest of the guys are not going to be counted on in 20, or we're not going to be counted on in 26.
Like, let's just be real about it. They're 3 stars who play special teams, who provide some depth. They're probably on the 3-4 list on the depth chart, which is fine. Like, I'm not making fun of those people. That's what I was in college. I was a guy who played special teams, like everyone has their role.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, when you've done this for 2 or 3 years and, money's being thrown at you and you want that spotlight of maybe being a starter somewhere, I can't blame you. But Notre Dame has plenty of reinforcement in the recruiting cycle. And then that gives them the option to pick and choose what they really need out of the portal. It's almost like when people ask you, do you want 20 friends, or do you want like 3 really close people would like die for you type friends? And that's, I think, Notre Dame's approach in this portal is like, yeah, we could have probably used Nick Marsh, and we probably could have used, Gilliam and others, but there's still like 31% of college football players are in the portal this year.
It's a ridiculous number.
Yeah. There's plenty of
there's more coming. There's more coming. That's the other piece of this. There's more guys coming in the portal. It's going to be open for the next few days. And then here's the other piece of it. Just because the portal closes, that doesn't mean Notre Dame can't still pull guys out of it and sign them. That just means guys can't jump in anymore. The portal window is to go into the portal, not to come out. So that's part of it too. This time last year, Malachi Fields was not even in the portal, let alone signed with Notre Dame. Like, let's just put all of this into perspective. You know what I mean? Notre Dame is not shopping necessarily for frontline starters. They're not. Now, if a guy materializes that wants to come to Notre Dame and Notre Dame wants them and they're an impact player, okay, cool. But that's not necessarily who Notre Dame is looking for. They're looking for impact players on the defensive line, depth guys that they can use, that they can roll with, right? Maybe a starter at defensive tackle, depending on who they bring in. They've got 14 scholarship wide receivers right now, and a couple of guys have left. And so they're not, like, numbers wise at wide receiver, they're fine. Now, can you argue that it's unproven talent? Sure. But it's also highly recruited talent. So it's like, maybe they bring in a guy, maybe they don't. So maybe they're going to actually count on guys that they brought in, through the recruiting process.
Yep.
That's not a terrible thing either, because last time I checked, CJ Carr is still wearing a Notre Dame uniform, and he can elevate the play of any wide receiver that's on this roster right now.
Well, isn't this the same group of people who, before CJ Carr, cried every year because they had to go to the portal to get a quarterback?
Right.
Everyone complained about, we keep having to go to the portal. When are we going to stop and develop our own players? Why can't that be true about the rest of the roster? Are we giving up on Elijah Burris? Are we giving up on Cam Williams? Are we giving up on, Jaden Greathouse because he was injured last year? Like you said, there's still a ton of talent at the wide receiver position.
Absolutely.
It's just unproven.
Micah Gilbert,
Micah Gilbert.
There's a bunch of guys there that can make plays. I'm telling you. And my favorite thing, and we'll get off of this topic here in a second, but my favorite thing is how everybody has given up on Cam Williams because he's a sophomore and hasn't been an impact player yet. Like, I get all the issues, maybe it's the playbook, whatever the case may be. He's a sophomore. Like, give the kid a second to like acclimate to high Division I football and, complicated playbooks and all of these different things. And look, we can all make the argument that they could have had him out there doing some simpler things and all. I get it. And that's not the argument that I'm making. What I'm saying is, let's not give up on guys who are literally in the middle of their sophomore year of college. Like, give them a second, give them a chance, So I think Notre Dame's going to be just fine. They are going to sign kids out of the portal. They're going to get a kicker. They're going to get defensive tackles. They're going to get some defensive ends.
They're going to get a wide receiver.
They're going to do all the things that they feel. They have a plan. They feel is important, and they will do that, and they will be fine. They have dynamic guys on offense right now, by the way. They have dynamic guys on defense, by the way. Like, Notre Dame's okay, right? IU is hard selling guys in the portal because they need to remake their roster again, right? And
that's what they're going to have to do every year.
Right. And look, to Curt Cignetti's credit, they've been able to do it 2 years in a row. They have. Touche to him. Kudos to him. We have not seen that be successful. This remaking of your roster every year. We have not seen that be successful until IU. So I will give them all their flowers because they're able to do it. Like, Florida State was a one-year wonder trying to do things in the portal, right? And then the next year they were terrible. And the next year they were terrible. Like, they haven't been able to do it. USC hasn't been able to do it. You know what I mean? Like, there's schools out there that have attempted to do what Curt Cignetti is doing successfully, right? I give him all the credit in the world for that. I just don't know if it is sustainable year in and year out. Maybe it is. But they do a really, really good job in the portal. Like, they're getting their targets in the portal. There's no doubt. They're doing that. But can they continue to do that? Can they ever recruit out of high school the way Notre Dame does. No, I don't think that they can. But maybe they don't care because they'll be able to retool their roster every single year. I don't know. But it's going to be fun to watch, and we'll get an idea of where they're at again tomorrow night when they play in the Peach Bowl. And then tonight is the Fiesta Bowl, Miami and Ole Miss. That's going to be a fun one. And so let's just jump right into it, Jesse, with our first question of the night. So tonight, Miami, Ole Miss, Fiesta Bowl. According to FanDuel, Miami is favored by 3.5. So who you got and why?
This is a really tough question because I want to answer with my logical side.
I know.
But sometimes the heart in me, it tries to take over. It's like you got the devil on one shoulder, you got the angel on the other. The one's telling you the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. The other one's telling you what you personally want to happen out of greed and spite and all those things. My heart is telling me Miami's going to be a little bit too big and physical for Ole Miss.
Yeah.
But then my heart is telling me, well, Ole Miss has played some big boy football. They've beaten Georgia. They've beaten Alabama.
Nobody expected them to beat Georgia. That's for darn sure.
And so the other side of it is like, well, I would argue Ole Miss probably has the hottest offense in the entire country, and they're motivated. Their coach left them. They're motivated.
Yeah.
Miami's motivated because everyone thought they should not been in the thing to begin with, right? And so they're kind of, each team's on a different motivation path. I think Ole Miss is a little bit more kind of finesse, I think what this game ultimately comes down to is Carson Beck. Are we going to see the Carson Beck in crunch time that throws a lot of interceptions? Because Miami's going to have to score. I know Ole Miss is going to put up some points. Mm-hmm. Miami's going to have to keep up. And I think that's ultimately what it's going to come down to. Can Miami's offense keep up? Will Carson Beck crack? And we haven't seen a bad Carson Beck game in a while. And I think it's on the horizon. So, you know what?
You're hoping.
As much as I really want to say Miami is going to win this game, I just think Ole Miss is going to sneak this game out somehow. In a really close game, the over-under is at 52.5. I would definitely take the over. I think a lot of points are going to be scored today. And like I said, Miami's going to try to have to keep up.
It's interesting because I do think it also comes back down to quarterback play in this game. I think Trinidad Chambliss made a ton of plays in the last game. He was dynamic. He did some things.
He plays like a guy that's got nothing to lose.
Right. And why would he? A year ago right now, he was the Division II national champion.
He's one game away from potentially being a national.
Right. Like he came to Ole Miss, as a long shot backup. And here he is, leading Ole Miss into the Final Four and potentially into the national championship game. And, Carson Beck comes to Miami. He cashes the big check. He is the big portal signee and all these things. And you watch the way Miami plays and you watch what the coaching staff asks Carson Beck to do.
Not a whole lot.
It's not much. That's exactly right. So
they're afraid of him losing games.
Correct. 100% agree with that. And so what is that going to look like in this game? Are they going to have faith in Carson Beck to throw the ball downfield? Yeah.
When this game opens up, are they going to trust Beck to really try to air that thing out and keep up?
Yep. It's going to come out. It's going to come down to not only how Carson Beck plays, but also how the coaching staff allows him to play. Yes. I really do think that, because if you watch a lot of his other games, a lot of his passes are horizontal and within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. That's it. Now, is he very good at that? Yes, he's very good at that. But most college quarterbacks should be good at those things.
Horrible over the middle of the field.
Exactly correct.
Horrible.
So can Ole Miss force Miami to the middle of the field? Can they sustain Malachi Toney? He's obviously their biggest offensive threat. And can they stop Miami's run game? They don't. Miami doesn't get a lot of credit for what they're doing with their run game, but in the playoffs so far, they've run the ball pretty well, and they've run it well when they've needed to. And so, can they stop Miami's run game? Can they contain Toney? And can they force Beck to make some mistakes? That's going to be the biggest thing here. It comes down to the quarterback. Which quarterback plays the best? Which quarterback is going to be allowed to play the best by the coaching staff? I think the coaching staff for Ole Miss, Charlie Wise Jr. is calling the plays.
They're going to let him do whatever.
They're going to let him do whatever. That's exactly right, because
there's no restraints. That's like a Ferrari. You don't put a speed limit on a Ferrari.
He's absolutely a baller. So it's like, okay, here we go.
I just think Ole Miss has to. I think the biggest thing for them is, and this is just common in football. So slap me on the head if you've heard this before, but Ole Miss just needs to get ahead early downs, running the ball, get 3-4 yards, set yourself up for some nice 2nd and 6s, 2nd and 2, because where Ole Miss offense thrives is they like to take their shots. And so if you can get to 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3, they're not going to just run this rinky-dink play to pick up the first down. No, they're going to go for
take some shots,
the home run shot, and then they're all right, now we'll get the 3 yards or the 2 yards.
What does Chuck Wise Jr. have to lose at this point?
Nothing.
He's not even going to be there the day after Ole Miss loses. Like, he's headed to LSU.
He's like, he literally might, if they lose, he might get on a plane and go straight to
head to Louisiana. Yeah, 100%. So I think it's going to be a fun game. I think there's going to be some offensive fireworks. It also does come down to, as you mentioned earlier, and somebody in the chat has also mentioned it, can Ole Miss handle the physicality up front of Miami on both sides of the football? Because that's going to be a big part of this too.
Ohio State didn't want to until the second half.
Right.
And so if I'm Ole Miss, I watch that game, and if I'm Pete Golding, I'm saying, you guys, you don't want to show up and be physical. This is what's going to happen, because
absolutely
that Ohio State was just sleepwalking the first half.
Right.
Had Ohio State played 4 quarters of like they did the last 2 quarters, they would have won that football game.
Right. And Ole Miss cannot go a half allowing Miami to push them around. Like, you just can't do that. Now, I do trust Ole Miss to score a little faster maybe than Ohio State did. So they could potentially rebound from a 1-score deficit at halftime, but don't put Miami in the driver's seat. You just can't do that if you're Ole Miss. So again, I think it's going to be fun. I'm going to be rooting for Ole Miss. I think the 3.5 is pretty accurate, to be perfectly honest with you. I also think the over is probably a good pick, so I'm with you on that one as well. But we'll see what happens. So that game kicks off, I believe it. Well, coverage starts at 7:30. I think we can appreciate the fact that it won't kick off at 7:30. Probably a little bit later than that. And so hopefully
I'll be ordering my food at 7:30.
Yeah, exactly right. So hope everybody enjoys that. So we've got some other questions to get to, a couple of other topics, and we will do that on the other side of this break. You are listening to Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat along with IrishBreakdown.com. Welcome back, everyone, to Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat, along with IrishBreakdown.com. I'm Vince D'Addario. That guy right over there in the sad cloak of Cowboys gear is Jesse Stiers. And we're with you guys for another, 8.5 minutes or so. So not much longer here before Notre Dame women's basketball tips off. And you'll hear the dulcet tones of Sean Stiers on the play-by-play. So that should be fun. The women need to fire back after a rough weekend. They got some work to do. There's no doubt about that. So, but should be a lot of fun. So make sure you stick around for that. Jesse, we obviously don't have a whole lot of time, so let's kind of jump into some of these questions that we've got. And we were talking about the transfer portal and everything that's going on or not going on, as the case may be, and how some people are right on the edge of sanity when it comes to Notre Dame and the transfer portal. So I'm going to ask you another question about it. So over under 1.5 transfer portal commits by Notre Dame before Sunday that will make you happy.
Yeah, I think that this might shock a lot of people, but I'm actually going to take the under here. If you gave me just one solid, transfer portal to kind of break that ice a little bit, I think that would be good. Like I don't need 2, I don't need 3, I don't need 4. And it's like you talked about, just because the portal is open. Once you're in, you're in. And so Notre Dame has plenty of time to figure out, which guys they want, who's going to be the best fit, et cetera, et cetera. So for me personally, just to kind of get the monkey off the back and probably shut up a lot of people who are just straight panic mode 24/7, just give me one recruit, and a solid. And if I had a preference, it would be a defensive lineman.
Okay. All right. I think there's a good chance that I'll take the over, because I'm thinking 2, to be honest with you. And it says that you will be happy about. So that's the kicker. That's like the key to this question, because frankly, whoever Notre Dame signs, I'll probably be happy with, because they've done their due diligence. They know who they want. They have a plan. They go out and get them. I think we're going to see, before that, I think we'll see a defensive lineman, and I think we'll see a kicker. And if that happens, then I'm good. I think there's a chance you could see 2 defensive linemen between now and then, and a kicker. So it could be up to 3 at that point. So I'm going to take the over. If it's a kicker that I think it will be, I'll be pretty darn happy about it. But like I said, on yesterday's show, the special teams room at Notre Dame is a bit of a disaster. So I'm not really sure what to expect on that one, but we'll kind of see how it goes. But I'm going to take the over on this one. I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to be glasses half full guy on this one and say that I'm going to be happy about it. You're not kidding. Very rare occasion. All right. Fill in the blank. Notre Dame officially announced Charlie Partridge as his new defensive line coach today, and it will mean blank in 2026.
It'll mean the verbiage here is going to probably sound a little weird, but it's going to have a significant impact on 2026. Okay. That's kind of where I'm going with this one. And that might be a little bit of a blanket statement, but the reason why I think it's going to have a significant impact is during his time at Pittsburgh, they had really good defensive line units. He's an elite recruiter. And today I was reading online, he's just a really good person as well. A lot of people like interacting with him. I think that goes a long way with, forging relationships with your players and recruits and all of that stuff. And so when you read articles about people not having a bad thing to say about the guy, I think that goes a long way. And so when you're making room, because they had a defensive line coach, right? When you're making room kind of on your coaching staff for someone, I think that sends a very strong message of how highly you feel about that person and the impacts that he can have. And to me, I love a guy that's got that NFL kind of experience. It means you were sought after by the best of the best. Yeah. And so that goes a long way for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I've done a deep dive on him, but I've heard he's a very good recruiter. I've heard he's got, connections all over the place. I think that's going to be huge, when it comes to not only recruiting in the portal, but also recruiting at the high school level. And so I'm excited about it. And I think, obviously Al Washington has been with the defensive line for a little while. Sometimes it's good to have a different voice, just to It doesn't matter if it's not even the same message, just a different voice.
Just looking at it through a different lens.
Exactly. And
it's
I
like
think that could be
when
good.
I'm at work and I'm working on the same project for 4 or 5 weeks, it sucks because you are just so tunnel vision sometimes. And so to have someone kind of come in, look at it through a different lens, maybe tweak some things or and it's not bad stuff. It's just thinking about things in a different way. And I think that's what could lead to some really significant results.
All right, this is going to be an interesting one, and we've got a few minutes to kind of hit it. It's blank that Dan Orlovsky says Arch Manning would be the number 1 pick in this year's NFL draft if he were in it.
It's not shocking. As much as I love to dunk on Dan Orlovsky given the opportunity, like I did on Tuesday, because the guy is horrible in NFL booths, by the way. I don't know if you listened to the Panthers and Buccaneers game this last weekend, but he should just leave that to the side. Most of his analysis is but this one I can get on board with because it's like it really is like a stock or a retirement plan when it comes to Arch Manning. Is like, is he not necessarily, ready right now 100%? Sure, but he's got all the tools, the attributes. You know what else, Vince? His last name is freaking Manning, and what
it's gotten him a long way.
But what did those Manning guys do in the NFL? And so
I get it.
When you're talking about legacy, when you're talking about the ideal prototype of what a quarterback should look like, and he's showing you stuff on the field. Will he polish up and should he polish up? Sure, but last season was his first season as a true starter at a big time program, and so I think that it's really not shocking at the end of the day. What do I agree with it? Would I take him number 1? No, but I understand kind of the thought logic or the train of thought.
So let me ask you this, and who would you take over him right now? And I'll give you the top 5 rated quarterbacks right now. You got Dante Moore, you've got Fernando Mendoza, you got Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, John Mateer, Cade Klubnik, Diego Pavia. Okay, those are some of the names that are in this draft.
I really wouldn't take any of those guys over him.
It's not a great quarterback class. I will grant you that. It is not a great quarterback class. So maybe that's where this comes from. It's like, well, there's a lot of guys in the draft, but maybe
I'm not sold on Dante Moore. I think the guy who impresses me the most is Mendoza, and I'm still stagnant on him because it's only been a year, So it's like,
believe me, look, Ty Simpson jumping in the draft here very recently, and all of a sudden he's the 3rd rated guy to come out. Like, that kind of tells you something. Garrett Nussmeier is the 4th ranked. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know how I feel about.
I wouldn't touch any of these quarterbacks.
Really? If I had the number 1 pick in the draft, I don't know that I'm going quarterback.
I would take an O-lineman or trade back.
Next year, you're going to have CJ Carr probably in the draft. You're going to have Arch Manning in the draft. Like, those 2 right there, I think would come out more than these guys, to be honest with you. So, all right. Of course, we come right up against the hard out. So we got to get out of here.
That was quick.
I know, right? Thanks, everybody, for joining us on Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat, brought to you by IrishBreakdown.com. We'll see you tomorrow.